So, what's happening with prices in Manhattan and Brooklyn? Welcome to this week's look at the state of the New York City real estate market. If you are active in this market as a buyer or seller, be sure you stick around so you get the latest information. We're going to start right now with what happened last week. With the Manhattan supply at about 6,650, Manhattan is kind of holding steady, still about 8% below where it was last year. And it is making for a very tight spring market because demand is definitely holding steady with liquidity popping a bit, nice rebound from what we saw in March. The weekly listings and the contract activity is beginning to fade just a little bit, as we would expect as we move through this spring market. But the activity does remain strong. So the question is whether the spring market will run a little bit longer than usual. The Brooklyn supply is at 3,600, thereabouts. The supply continued its rise, albeit modestly this week, and now sits above last year's level. The news here is that demand has finally started to kick in, and we're starting to see signs of life in Brooklyn. It's still a little bit early, but it looks like we're starting to see a bit of a rebound after a very long period of flatness. And here's what stood out this week, and we'll talk a bit about prices and what is selling and what is sitting. This chart breaks down price performance, and what we're seeing in Manhattan is that the luxury and trophy properties are outperforming all the other segments. The takeaway is that the demand is the strongest at the high end of this market. However, the broader conditions do remain pretty stable and balanced. So, in short, everything over 4 million is selling better than everything under 4 million. But the under 4 million is doing okay. It's just not doing as well. In Brooklyn, it's just the opposite. It's those lower priced or even entry-level properties that are selling best, while those more expensive properties are tending to sit a little bit longer. It could be this constrained supply and relative affordability that is powering this Brooklyn momentum, especially in that lower price category, but time will tell. We'll see where this all leads with both Manhattan and Brooklyn in terms of pricing and what's selling, in terms of these segments and whether they will continue to perform as they seem to be performing now. And so the mortgage rates are holding pretty steady. Not much news there, but here's the chart. So in closing, this spring market continues to be a somewhat segmented and selective kind of market, with those trophy luxury properties outperforming everything in Manhattan, and in Brooklyn, the opposite. These lower entry level kind of properties are the ones that are performing the best. In addition to that, we know that it's those well-priced, well-positioned, often turnkey properties that are moving more quickly in their category than the ones in that same category that are not well positioned and not well priced and perhaps not turnkey. So what to do if you're in the market? If you are a seller, a correct pricing strategy is absolutely essential. Be sure that you are priced in alignment with these market conditions. Otherwise, you will very likely be faced with more time on the market and price adjustments along the way to attract buyers. And if you are a buyer and you're looking for leverage, keep an eye out for those properties that have been sitting on the market for a while, perhaps have even had some price adjustments. That's where you will likely see some opportunity. The newer properties, if they're well priced and ready to go will likely sell very quickly. So you may not get as much opportunity with those. That's it for this week's look at the state of the market. Be sure you post your questions below, or you can reach out to me directly at Sotheby's if you need some additional information about the market. As always, my thanks to the Olshan Luxury Report and to Urban Digs. The work they do helps me to help you to make great decisions. If staying on top of the New York City real estate market is important to you, then be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any news. And just to change things up a little bit, instead of reporting on the state of the market, I'm going to be sharing with you some interesting New York City architectural information and secrets. So be sure you tune in for that. And after that, of course, I will be back with the very latest news on what is happening in the New York City real estate market. In the meantime, take care.